Hello, welcome. We are looking now at the third sonata of the first set of Beethoven's sonatas, Opus 2. This is the last one, like I said, in C major. When Beethoven arrived in Vienna, he wanted to make an impact as a major composer. So his artistic aim was to master the art of music and to have his work welcomed by the nobles and most cultured people. That was his aim that he wrote down. He definitely achieved that with this first set of sonatas. The set became popular very quickly around that time, although it was difficult to play. The C major sonata especially was the best known of the three, and one of the most played aside from the popular sonatas with names nowadays like the Moonlight, the Appassionata and Pathétique. So you hear this sonata in C major of the first set of sonatas still in concert halls around the world. Interesting thing about this sonata is that Beethoven used the musical ornament of a turn throughout this sonata to create his motives in this piece. In all movements, we will see that the turn is very important. A turn, what is a turn? A turn, the symbol of a turn looks something like this. It's written above a note, and it means that the turn begins with the note above the bass note, followed by the main note, then the note below, and finally landing on the main note again. So it would be something like this. So above the main note being that one, something like that. So when we start looking at the first movement, it starts in C major with this motive. So we'll see that those double thirds and this trill here with double thirds. And we have already something like a turn here as well. Something like a turn that we have at the beginning, and it's already a technical challenge, and that's typical for Beethoven. He most of the time he put technical challenges right at the beginning of his pieces. It goes on like this, and then we have that motive. And then it comes in the left hand. Next comes a transition, and all the transitions from one theme to the next in this movement are most of the time arpeggios or scales. So here it starts with the transition to the next theme, to the second theme, and we basically have arpeggios that go on and on. And so on. And then this transition ends here. And then comes, it's still a transition. The second theme starts later. But now we have trills, double trills, and scales. Basically this scale in fortissimo that leads to the second theme that starts here. The second theme is in G minor, and it's a contrast, which is also very typical for Beethoven. The ending here, that scale, that G major scale downwards here, is in fortissimo, and the second theme starts in piano. What is interesting is that Beethoven took the theme from his abandoned piano quartet and made that the second theme for this exposition, for this first movement. He already used a melody from the abandoned piano quartet in the second movement of his first sonata, if you remember. So this second theme is very lyrical, and it's a beautiful theme, and it modulates from G minor to D minor over A minor to G minor, and then to D major. We're landing on D major here at the end. Then comes, here we have a lot of that's the transition to the next segment in G major, here. In this segment we have changes between left and right hand. So here it starts a melody in the right hand, left hand takes over that melody, then the right hand again, left hand again, and so on. Then we have again those arpeggios in the right hand. And before that is something interesting. We have, wait a bit, where is it? Here. That chord here is a 10th in the left hand. And this is, I mean, I have large enough hands so that I can play that. If you have small hands, this could be difficult to play. On period instruments, it wasn't that big a deal because the keys were smaller than nowadays, so it was easier to play. So we move on. We have those arpeggios, then we have these interesting alternating octaves, and this is basically used to lengthen the exposition, and we will see more of these alternating octaves in the development section. The segment here closes in G major, here, which is the expected dominant of C major. And then we have the closing section of this exposition here. And this is interesting because we just basically have a series of cadences, and they are all decorated with trills. And this is also basically a turn, the ornament. All those trills in both hands, as you can see. This is practice. Not as easy as it looks. And then those broken octaves here in both hands in fortissimo again, so also very typical for Beethoven. All those contrasting pianissimo, pianissimo, forte, and then fortissimo. This is typical for Beethoven. He changes between different loudness very often. So these alternating, these broken octaves here in the left, in both hands, starting from here and ending here, these close the exposition. Development section opens like the ending of the exposition. This is also typical for Beethoven. He not always, but very often, he uses the ending of the exposition and use motives from that to open the development section. He uses these trill decorated cadences here, and then we have arpeggios starting here. arpeggios are derived from the second segment of the opening theme. And we have a lot of diminished seventh sonorities. So all these here. And the next one is, let me find it here, it's and so on. So a lot of diminished chords. And then next, calando gets slower, softer, and then what we have here is basically the first theme of the exposition. But it's not already the recapitulation, because this is basically just in disguise, a recapitulation in disguise. If you look further, we have just here that theme. And then all of a sudden, very unexpected, again fortissimo. And this fragmentation of the opening figuration leads to the recapitulation. We have, like I said, those octaves. More fragmentation of the opening motive alternating between left and right hand, and then just the motive in the right hand, all that same motive. And then starting from here in piano, we're at in the recapitulation, all events of the exposition are presented in order, retaining the home key for the second theme area. This is something interesting here. We have if you look at that part, we haven't seen that before, but if you look at the right hand here, we have the same melody. Now here in octaves. And again. Up, so, bum, bum. So these alternating octaves, left, right hand, are also very often in this, you'll hear that very often in this first movement. Then we have the same part here. We saw that already in the exposition. Then again, that scale, G major scale, downwards. And then comes the second theme. And this time, the second theme stays in C. In this case, C minor. Same thing that we've seen in the exposition. Here we have again that segment where we have the melody alternating left hand, right hand, right hand, and so forth. Then we have the arpeggios. Octaves, this part. We have the trills, the cadence, and then comes something that's very interesting, starting here. We have an A flat major chord. What does an A-flat major chord have to do in C major? So this is a very surprising event, and it's followed by a descending arpeggio-like figuration. If you see that here, so it starts with that chord, and so on, and then we have a series of diminished seventh sonorities again. Starting with the next one here. And so on. And this part basically sounds like the cadenza of a piano concerto, especially if you look at that part here that is written in small notes. That's basically a cadenza of a piano concerto. That's why there are people, if you read through books about Beethoven, about his sonatas, that basically say that this sonata, especially the first movement, is basically a piano concerto in disguise. Here we have the ending with the trill on the fermata, very typical for piano concertos. And then the opening motive comes again. And it's followed by syncopated octave material here. And the broken chords from the second segment of the first theme. Here is basically the ending of this sonata. The first movement of the sonata, of course. The second movement is, like in the preceding sonata, in a very contemplative mood. It starts with a very unusual key in E major. And again, in the first theme, the motivic fragments are interspersed with rests, and those motives are already, again, a reminder of the ornament of a turn. Goes on. And so on. It's moving from the tonic to the dominant. Here at the end. And then comes the B section of this movement. And it starts with the surprising key of E minor. On. So we have chord figures in 30-second notes in the right hand, alternating with bass octaves in the left hand. If you look further, we have then melodic fragments here that are played by the left hand crossing over the right hand. This is being continued here. Left hand bass, and then we have the G clef, bass clef, G clef. So we always have left hand then going over the right hand to play these melodic fragments here. It sounds something like this. and so on. We have modulations from E minor through G major to A minor. And again, during this part, we have something that's always in Beethoven pieces, the contrasts between soft and loud, or very soft, and contrasting between very soft and very loud. We have here the fortissimo that comes very surprisingly. And so on. And then it's only for 2 bars, and then we have again a piano for 1 bar, and then again a fortissimo for 2 bars. Then again the piano in 1 bar, fortissimo, 2 bars. So the mood of this movement is very interesting. It's very dark sometimes, but a beautiful melody. After that, move back here, back. Back in our A section in the same key, E major. But before we come to the B section, we get a surprising and unexpected statement of the first motive. So we have at the first ending of the A section, we have this cadence, and then we got the This time we have rising fortissimo with the unexpected statement of the first motive in C major. And just after that, we're starting again with the B section, in this time the return of that B section is shorter than the first time, and it's ending here. And what we have here basically is a coda, and the coda is based on the opening motive of the A section. So we have figural variations in different registers of the piano. Here, top register, here moves down, lower register moves up again, stays up, and moves down again in the lower register. So the ending is something like this. So I'm really looking forward to playing this movement because it's really beautiful. Okay, let's move on to the third movement. Third movement is a scherzo. Like in the first sonata and in the second sonata. In the first sonata we had the third movement was a minuet with the character of a scherzo. And in the second sonata we had basically the perfect form of a scherzo with a funny, brilliant main part and a neutral moving trio. And like in the second sonata, this scherzo is very lively and lighthearted, with traditional minuet and trio structure and time signature. We have, again, sudden loudness changes. We have sforzati on upbeats. Let me show you here. The upbeats. Typical for Beethoven. And we again have the motive of a turn. in the beginning, if you look at it, basically this comes all the time, this motive. It starts in right hand, then it comes in the left hand, and again, and again. So it's always this motive in that scherzo. The trio is interesting. The trio is in A minor, and it's in a completely different structure and mood. It's basically arpeggios going up and down. And so on. After the trio, we have the repetition of the scherzo, and the scherzo moves on into a coda. It goes here, scherzo da capo, and then right into that coda. And in that coda, we have these octaves that already reminds us of the motive in the Ninth Symphony of Beethoven, which came much later than that sonata was written. And the ending of this scherzo is in pianissimo. After we hear, before that, we hear the motive again. And a very interesting movement. I like it. So the fourth movement is, again, typical for Beethoven. Beethoven's approach to playing the piano was grandiose, strong, and virtuosic. And all of this shows in the last movement of this sonata. And he often had very virtuosic endings of piano sonatas. So he basically moved the importance of the first movement in sonatas to the last movement. So in Beethoven sonatas, you have much more of the important movement. More of the time it is the last movement than the first movement. And here we see it again. It starts with this very fast upwards movement of sixth chords. It's again a rondo related to the sonata allegro form, what we had before already. And the first phrase that I just played again reminds us of the ornament of a turn. If you look at the melody line, it's again, and up here. So this ornamentation of a turn you will see in this sonata all the time in his motives. If we continue, we have this segment here where we have a lot of very fast 16th notes. And also this as well reminds us of ornamentation. Then again we have that sixth chords going upwards. Ending of the A section of the rondo. This is the start of the B section. New melody. And so on. In the rondo, there's one section that's being repeated all the time, and this is of course the A section, which comes again here. continues until a C section starts. And this C section here is unusually long, and it's a choral-like lyrical theme. So it starts in F major, and this is being repeated 3 times. 3 times the same thing. Until here, first time, ends here, second time, starts again. And so on. F major. And again, here, F major. And that was wrong because it does not end in F major. After the third time, he goes to F minor. And then the modulation starts and he's moving from F minor to A flat major here and C minor here. And then next comes again the A theme. And this is just like we had before. We're going through the different themes of the rondo. A theme, then starting here, B again, and then comes the interesting thing. The final statement of the A theme is an integral part of a cadenza-like coda, which starts with the trill here. This opening long trill, and it's again like in the first movement, it's imitating gestures found in concerto cadenzas. And it starts with the single trill and it goes to a trill in the left hand. And then again, single trill here, single trill here, left hand trill on top of the trill in the right hand, and here this is probably one of the most difficult parts in this movement, the trills in one hand, 2 trills in one hand on a third. It's supposed to be a very fast trill, and it's again the motive of the first theme of the first movement. We have the trill, and here, then we have a fermata, like in a cadenza of a concerto. And then we have this again, like in the first sonata, where we have, or in the second sonata, where we have those sudden key changes. Here we have a foreign key of A major. After that trill, with that slowing in tempo and dynamic, before the final outburst here in fortissimo, with the octaves in the left hand and the right hand, left hand first, then right hand, and with the cadence at the end. And this sudden outburst at the end, this final burst of energy, is often used by Beethoven. And this ends a very, very beautiful and interesting sonata of Ludwig van Beethoven. Like I said, it's one of the most popular sonatas still, and played quite often in concerts. I'm very looking forward to practicing it, and I hope you will enjoy my performance at the end of this month, and I'm looking forward to seeing you soon during one of my practice sessions. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye.